YouTubers, Mike Martins here, Mike Martins channel. I want to thank everyone for joining me for another special edition of Trends in the Housing Market. Today is November 30th, 2017, and I want to wish everyone a good morning, good night, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you're watching this transmission. This is live, non-scripted housing discussion. Open lines will be closed tonight because I am redoing the studio. My studio, if you look at what it looked like before, and you look behind me, it's gotten a lot of work done to it, and I'll be wrapping things up over the weekend. So I'll have open lines next week for everyone to call in. And I'm running the open lines off a separate system, so the phone number won't appear on the middle of the screen. Anyways, housing. I'm like, what's going on in the housing market? Woo! Housing market's out of control, people. And I just wanted to put this out there. I got quite a few stories I want to go through. I have a lot of emails that was sent to me. I might not have time to read all the emails because it's really jam-packed show tonight. And I want to kick things off. Live chat's open if you want to leave any messages. Please leave a message or anything on the live chat box. Don't forget to tune in every 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Tijuana, Los Angeles County time. Anyways, I got a hell of a good show for you guys, so I'm going to kick it off right now. Opinion. See how they gray it out in the article? How they gray out opinion? Opinion. So people are logging into the chat. Hello to everyone coming on board. Hey guys, how's it going? Opinion. Homeowners are rich only on paper. What have I been saying for the last 5 years? Not 4, not 3, not 2, 5. Homeowners are rich only on paper. Don't expect them to fix the housing crisis. Yep. To the editor, homeowners, this is from the LA Times, by the way. It's from a friend of mine named Margarita. She sends me articles from Los Angeles once in a while. Asks me to go ahead and buy. Someone's commenting in the comment section, sorry, to buy Bitcoin. That is not too long. Okay, in all fairness, we'll do a Bitcoin show on Monday. I'm going to try and make sure I have my phone for people separate, a good phone system, so people could call into the show, okay? I promise I'll have that. I'll do a Bitcoin. I've been wanting to do a Bitcoin show for a while, okay? Anyways, to the editor, homeowners may be making money while we sleep, but it does little good until we sell. This is, like I said, this is an article from the Los Angeles Times. My friend Margarita, she sends me all these articles all the time if I'm interested in reading them on my show. And then what? We can't afford to buy another home unless we leave the state. So people sell, I'm rich, where do I rebuy? I can't. Some of us are rich only on paper and shouldn't be penalized for owning a home. We already pay tacked on taxes to help the schools and our communities. Well, the columnist Steve Lopez is correct that a scarcity of housing is the reason for California's housing inequity, suggesting that homeowners are partially to blame for the inequity is absurd. The only way to reduce the inequity is to increase the supply of housing. No! You guys know they increase the supply of housing. That's not the problem. And I know that LA County, Orange County, and not really the Beverly Hills area, but a lot of those areas, North Hollywood, lots of empty homes. Hollywood Hills, lots of empty homes. So they're thinking now, so what's happening in America, and quote me on this, okay? What's happening in America is they're trailing behind the rest of the English-speaking countries. It started in Canada, London, Australia really started, because Australia has been in the bull market for about 40 years with their housing crisis, okay? Then it kind of leaked over to New Zealand, Canada, and then now the United States is a couple of years behind the rest of the English-speaking world. Pay attention to what I'm going to say, okay? So it's saying here, suggesting that homeowners are partially inequity is to increase the supply of housing. So I think the United States is a couple of years behind and not paying attention to what's happening to the other major cities and what happened to them, okay? Someone's commenting here, increased supply equals more wood on the fire, correct, Mike? Yes. Moreover, the call to tax homeowners equity at the time of sale is dangerous thinking. Homeowners are already taxed plenty, and if the current federal tax reform bills are signed into law, homeowners will be penalized with reduced deductions for mortgage, interest, and state local taxes, among other restrictive provisions. The California, so this is the cool, listen to this. To improve housing affordability, local governments need to do more to create greater housing supply. This is not the problem. So if anyone from the LA Times that's watching this, that sent me this or was addressed to send me this article to read it and give my spin is do not build anymore. Okay? Enacting policies that are better match housing development with cities. Population growth instead of rent control or housing tax schemes will help California return to its status of a great state in which to live, work, and raise a family. The problem is people are leaving California in masses. I had Tito on the line. Tito is a guy that living in Texas now. Walking Journey on the line, on the phone. I'll have open lines, guys, next week. I'm sorry about this week. The office is under construction. I'll have a separate computer running open lines so we can monitor some of the calls. But in all fairness, there's a huge mass exodus in the state of California. Everybody's leaving California in huge numbers. A lot of it is bought out millennials that can never buy. A lot of people in the tech sector are moving to Portland and Washington State, Seattle area. And that's been taking a hit on the housing crisis as well. So let's keep going here. So this is what's happening. So the key word, California wants to return to its status as a great state in which to live, work, and raise a family. I just, that's great. But I just don't believe building more housing will solve the problem. In a year or 2 years down the road on the show, on trends in the housing market, I'm going to address it and say, hey guys, do you remember when I said America was a few years behind of all the other English-speaking countries when it comes to tax housing issues? Well, it's plain as day here. You can see it in that article. Let's move on. So my IP address is blocked from this news site. They won't let me in. So I had to do something weird. I don't want to lose this. This is a good article. Basically, my IP address has been blocked from seeing this here. So it's got to come up like this. I tried to use it differently. So let's read this article here. Let's move down. 2008 could be a scary year as housing correction puts some doubt on ridden Canadians underwater. So what's happening to these Canadians underwater? What does that mean, people? It means you're paying more for a house than what you bought it for. So you pay 100 grand for your house goes down to 60,000, but you're still paying that 100 grand. You're paying more for what you got. And a lot of people can't do it. They can't stomach the fact that they're paying more for what they got. A 40% surge in home equity lines of credit since 2011, riding off the coattails of your mortgage. Riding off the coattails of your mortgage. And that's what they've been doing in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and parts of US. So Eddie Franco is commenting here saying there is plenty of houses in the Bay Area. The problem is that tech companies are over betting by 800 large, $800,000. Where is this leaving us? We have to go hours away to buy something affordable. Got it. So that's very true. And Eddie, in all fairness, do you know what they've done in Sydney? And I've read this article 3 weeks ago on the show. In the city of Sydney in Australia, they're creating segregated condominiums, big towers, only for doctors, lawyers, surgeons, police officers, garbage men, nurses, whatever. Anybody in that sector can't afford and have to live hours away. What happens? They have to segregate housing there to allow them. They could rent in the building. They can't own. So, a 40% surge in home equity lines of credit since 2011 has helped mask a credit crisis created by consumers who tap their own home equity to pay their bills. Because once you start factoring people's TDS, cost of living and all that, how do they eat? Off credit. So I gotta keep scrolling down here until I catch it. Ottawa. A drop in Canadian home prices has put some recent buyers underwater. Particularly in Toronto, the nation's largest market, just as rising interest rates and record levels of household debt have put the squeeze on borrowers, with homeowners' equity falling in tandem with a 15% drop in the average Toronto house price since April. And lenders tightening credit in response to tougher regulations. The ability of people to borrow against the value of their home is shrinking. Why? The equity starts to close off once your house loses value. So be careful with that, because once you get that line of credit rolling and you feel like you've won the lottery, that's fantastic. It's a great feeling. But what happens? Your house is worth less than what you bought it for, or it's at where you bought it at. All those lines of credit and all that unsecured debt is basically, you're in trouble, is basically what it is. Someone's commenting here. Oh, okay. They always build over the last best farmland we have left, which leave us no places to starve. So I have an article about farmland coming up, and someone's commenting below. Mike, I was told today that by RBC Mortgage Lending Manager that 50% of all mortgages in Canada are up for renewal in 2018. I have a story on that too. So you guys sit back and relax. I got a really good story for you guys here tonight. Then Eddie Franco said, that's how I lost my first house. Yes, Eddie Franco. He's being honest with us, and he's telling us, this is how I lost my first house. It was worth less than what I bought it for. 50%, and Harry's commenting saying 50% of renewal with household debt boiling over $2 trillion. No wiggle room. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. With homeowners' equity falling in a tandem with 15% drop in the average Toronto area. I read that already. Listen to this, guys. The insolvency business is cynical. At the last 5-year peak was in 2009, said Terrio. We're now in the 8th year of a 50-year cycle because of people's equity in their homes and low interest rates. Outstanding home equity line of credit balances reached a record of $211 billion. $211 billion in lines of credits, home equity lines of credits. In 2016, according to the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. Guys, this is what do you know, everybody wants to leave the dream life. I mean, I'm going to have to do an entire show on how to set up a layaway, how to layaway. Layaway, I'm going to teach people how to get a shoebox, cut a little hole on top. I'm going to teach people how to slide the money into the shoebox every week. And then I'm going to show people how to calculate it at the end of a year's term to show them how much they have saved at the end of the year so they don't have to go into debt and pay interest on something they probably really don't need. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep going. Okay, back to farmland. So I'm just commenting on what someone commented earlier in the comment section. Farm in Richmond, BC sells for more than 100 times its assessed value. This is enormous. And if even 3% of the population tuned in to understand what's going on here, people would be at a huge advantage in understanding how the markets are tweaking and working. Because this is beyond anything I've ever heard in my life. 100 times its assessed value. Not twice, not thrice. 100 times. Property sells for $9.2 million despite being assessed at $85,000 in 2017. Imagine. Okay, man, your house, it's worth 85 large. Your land's 85 large. Hey, I'll hold on to it for a year. Hey, guy, I want to buy your land. Here's $9.2 million. Somebody won the lottery there. Somebody won a lottery. A Richmond, BC farm property has sold for more than 100 times its assessed value, opening up a new potential development site in the booming suburb where home prices continue to skyrocket. An 8-hectare Richmond property was assessed at $84,264 in 2017, a slight dip from the previous year, but it sold for $9.2 million, with the mortgage officially changing hands on October 30th, 2017. The city of Richmond has some of its highest housing prices in the region, and land for potential development is so valuable that locals complain that attempts to stop development from devouring farmland are not enough. People are going to be angry, says Richmond. Harold Steve Wu explains the farmland is assessed at lower rate to benefit farmers. That's right. Farmland is at a lower rate to benefit farmers. Nobody is buying that land to farm it. If you pay that kind of money, you aren't a farmer. So, there it goes there. So, $10 million property. Wow, that's our clients, I guess. My clients. Wow. It's simply not encouraging farming at all because anybody who is building 10,000 square foot houses is not in it to make money on 5 acres or 20 acres of blueberries, said Steves. So he said that on one case, the city had to reject a bid to build a 40,000 square foot home big enough for 21 bedrooms. Wow. Anyways, guys, I want to know what you guys think of this farming fiasco. I mean, it's good for the real estate agent there. Good for the real estate agent. Going to make a good commission off that, but what's going to happen? I think it's going to create some sort of an erosion domino effect of lack of land to produce, because you got these arid climates in those areas where all year round you could plant stuff if you really want all year round. And if we start losing that land that we could plant most of the year, we're in a lot of trouble, because we start selling out that, we're in a lot of trouble. Anyways, let's go here. Mortgage stress test could eliminate 12% of Vancouver buyers. I'm surprised it's 12%. Somebody's commenting here. Steve is commenting saying, yep, it's going to be so badly for so many people and it will end in tears. And then following by another comment by Harry says, nobody has the money to get in this overheated market. Market being fed by fraud, and the free money equals 1% interest rates. And those who wait will have their money bailed in to help the fraudsters. And then it goes on to say, if a house drains more than 60% of your income, and it is right now, and a house is no longer an asset, it is a toxic debt. Why bankaroos like you getting you end up sending back your keys? Jingle mail. Only 7% of Canada is land where people can actually live on. Yeah, because it's crown land or something, you know. And mortgage stress test could eliminate 12% of Vancouver's buyers. The Bank of Canada released their financial statement review today, which shed some vital insights on household debt, mortgage originations, originations and the housing market. It's a 44-page report that economic geeks have been salivating for weeks. However, I'm sure you'd rather not bore yourself to sleep, so I'll prove some of the key takeaways here. Low ratio mortgages are growing after previous stress test. So here's your stress test. So this is the city of Toronto. There's the share to low ratio mortgage category there. What does this mean? First off, 90% of all mortgages in Vancouver are now low ratio. This basically means most of these borrowers were previously exempt from the last stress test. Is it any wonder we didn't see much impact? The Bank of Canada now estimates that under new mortgage stress test, it will eliminate 12% of low ratio borrowers from qualifying for a mortgage. Meanwhile, 46% of high ratio borrowers were from Vancouver and Toronto. So here you go. There's the estimated impact on mortgage stress test. Toronto, Vancouver, proportion within low ratio percentage, 12, and proportion ratio within high percentage. Holy smokes. And look at other cities in response. What? Can credit units absorb the difference? So I got another article coming up about asking to use credit unions. Credit unions, sorry. And Walking Journey just signed on, and he's asking what happens to the phone number. No, I'm redoing my office. If you guys see, looks real good. I put some nice brick, a little bit of siding, got rid of that pissy carpet, put a nice hardwood flooring. But no, I got the computer system is being set up on the side here, just for the phone system, so we can monitor calls. And then we can monitor calls starting next week, and I'll have it for next week's show. Anyways, can credit unions absorb the difference? The short answer is highly unlikely, of course. Per the Bank of Canada, credit unions only account for 70% of the uninsured mortgages, with many credit unions cutting off their mortgage broker channel, meaning they will only service existing customers of the bank. It suggests capital is running low. Private mortgage lending. The Bank of Canada only provided private mortgage lending data for Ontario, but essentially 10% of all new mortgage originations are from private lenders or MICs, mortgage investment corporations. It's likely a similar number in Vancouver. I beg to differ. I think it's a bit higher in Vancouver. Leverage has been increasing. The share of low ratio mortgages with an LTI, loan to income, above 450% is its greatest in markets with strong house price growth, Vancouver and Toronto. A similar pattern emerges from borrowers with extended amortizations. So this is super long. It's a really long article. I really want you guys to check it. It's called Mortgage Stress Test Could Eliminate 12% of Vancouver Buyers. I think it's more like 25%, to be really frank with you. So people are like commenting here, asking why the phone system's down. And then someone's telling me to put a big neon sign behind me. Yeah, I'll do something nice on that brick wall there. It'll be something nice to make kind of make the show a little bit more cozy. Maybe I'll put a couch back there in case somebody want to watch me. People want to watch me do this live. Remember, guys, I'm teleprompter free. I'm just reading articles from you guys. I'm spinning off what I feel. This is not edited. This is live. So, you know, if I say a word wrong or I misread a word, you don't need to make fun of me. I already know. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying my best here. And, so people are commenting about the marijuana stocks in Aurora Cannabis. Yes, I remember the disclaimer. Do not listen to me when it comes to any investing ideas. I don't know nothing. So, Aurora Cannabis is one of the main companies I'm invested in. I picked up the stock very cheap, and it's on fire the last couple of days. And it's been booming. I think I tripled on that stock already, and yeah. So don't listen to me. I don't know nothing. You got to go to a banking specialist who's going to get you into some weird, mutual fund or something. Okay. Oh, come on. This computer's... This article has been bogging down my computer. Not enough focus on demand side. Supply alone won't fix Vancouver's housing problem, says chief planner. There you go. Somebody is finally commenting and saying that it's not the supply. So this is a really good article. I'm trying to get this thing to set up here for me so I could read it. But it's not allowing me to adjust it to the beginning of the article because for some reason, some of these articles won't open on my computer. Like it says my IP has been, something is wrong. So that basically don't want me to read these articles, I guess. As the Vancouver real estate has soared out of reach of most locals in recent years, some high-profile figures have attested the only way to solve a problem is correcting the city's housing supply shortage. Others have argued for interventions on the demand side. The debate has at times become heated. I could imagine going into one of these meetings. They'll be like, who the hell is this guy? I'll be like, hey, it's me, Mike Martins. Be like, who the hell is that? And I'll be like, hey, I don't know nothing. Okay, let's keep going here. So, let's keep going here. On Tuesday, Vancouver's chief planner staked out a position saying the city can't build its way out of its housing crisis by focusing solely on increasing supply. Yeah. Woo! Somebody's paying attention here. It's crucial, he said, to address this demand. Jill, Vancouver's general manager of planning, presented City Council Tuesday with the city's new 10-year housing strategy, which he described as part of a major turning point in the city's development. Kelly said San Francisco, the city where he previously worked and one of only housing markets in North America more expensive than Vancouver, had faced a supply shortage. But Vancouver, he said, the same conditions are not driving... Damn, I scrolled down too fast. The same conditions are not driving... Same conditions are not driving the housing affordability crisis. Sorry, guys. This article isn't being nice to me. In fact, we've actually been creating a large supply of housing as opposed to San Francisco for the past decade or more. It's just the supply has been targeted at high-end and for investors and leaving out many of the folks that live here in Vancouver and want to work and raise families. Oh, wasn't the whole purpose of the city of Vancouver a city in Canada that is designed for people to live and live and raise families? Isn't that the whole point of a city? So what is it, a playground for only the rich? Who was appointed to Vancouver's top planner in August 2016. In fact, Kelly continued in a statement breaking from the real estate industry's unorthodoxy. Vancouver has produced more than our population growth would demand on its own. Wow. So this guy's getting into it, like, honestly. He's really hitting the nail on the head on this one. Adding supply alone won't improve affordability. So can people down in LA County, if you're watching this show, please listen. Adding more housing won't improve affordability and more places to live, because in my opinion, a lot of those places will just remain vacant and boarded up, owned by investors. Very extreme level of speculative investments in real estate, primarily in high-end condominiums. What's a high-end condominium? Because I walk into a condominium in Vancouver, I go in, I do my, I go check it out, right? For example, when I leave, there's a guy pushing a shopping cart. There's people sleeping on the corner. What is high-end? Like, to me, a high-end area, a high-end condo, or a high-end is in a high-end complete vicinity of a 12-block vicinity of kind of like a huge segregated part from the rest of the city, and all you see is people walking around like Gary Cooper with their top hats and canes and bow ties. That, like Marvin Gardens used to be, or Park Avenue used to be back in the 1920s. Like, what else was like that? Park Avenue was like that. Marvin Gardens, what else was like that? A couple of Atlantic City used to be like that in the 1920s. Forget it. Comment below, let me know what your opinion is. What's your opinion of high-end condo, what it means? The new housing strategy raises the idea of exploring demand-side solutions with senior governments, including restricting foreign ownership of property. Bingo. Article just went haywire. Including restricting foreign ownership of property. Yeah? Then it goes on to say, Vancouver, Kelly said, has been hit by a perfect storm. Outside council chambers, Kelly told Post Media that Vancouver's housing market has been struck by a combination of low interest rates, favorable federal tax policies, and the ease of moving capital around. Whether that's locally or international, and a lot of it is international in Vancouver's case. So, anyways, I wanted to do this. Oh, accidentally closed another article by accident. Damn it. Because that article was, look, my computer's moving really good now. That article was bogging me down. And you know what that article was? That article that I closed was about the Seattle housing crisis, out of control, spiraling out of control right now. And things are getting pretty heated down in Seattle. So someone's commenting, bring back the call-in number. I'll do next week. So you guys can call in next week, I promise. I'm setting it up on a different system here. So let's Control Shift T. I don't know what that means. It's probably some commands on a computer. So let's Control Shift T. I don't want to shut this thing down. Let's see if I can do this. Control Shift T. Yes, it worked. So whoever commented there, Alex, thank you for that. See, I got good backup here. Actually, it was in Seattle. Seattle's coming up 2 stories from now. This story ties in, damn you. It's not here. No credit card. Thanks. I'm okay. Thanks. I don't need a credit card. So someone's commenting there on me. Allow credit unions to tackle housing crisis, TD's demand. So remember the very first article where I was talking about how they're hoping credit unions could kick in or kind of stimulate a bit of the overflow of what's going to be happening soon. So let's see what this article says about it. Credit unions should be allowed to lend to approved housing bodies to help ease the country's housing crisis. The Finance Committee has recommended. Legislative changes may be needed if lending caps are to be changed, the committee said. So it wants me to subscribe for this, to read it. I don't think Credit unions, they're not allowed. They're not a lot. There's about 11% of the banking system in Canada are credit unions, and that's not a lot. So I don't think they can make a difference. This was sent to me from a friend of mine, Raymond, from Portland, Oregon, and he sent me this article. He really wants me to discuss Portland's homeless crisis because the housing bubble there is out of control. Yeah, so people people are commenting here in the comment section, and I want to do a quick plug here. I want to thank people that are picking up my show and redistributing it into podcast format. That means a lot to me. I want to thank people who are picking up clips from my show and I don't know how to say it. Getting the word out there and people using my clips on talk radio, other talk radio shows. I really appreciate that, and get it out there. Let's make the housing crisis the number one foremost thing that needs to be taken care of, because without a house, you can't lay roots and raise a family properly. Portland's homeless crisis needs collaborative approach to address the root causes. Guest opinion. So, someone wrote me a really lengthy, detailed email from Portland, Oregon, saying that the homelessness there is skyrocketed in the last 2 years. The amount of people sleeping on the streets is he can't believe it. He basically told me in it was a long email, so in a few words or less, he basically just said, times are changing for the worse, and this is really bad. There's Taz, sleeps with his girlfriend Melissa on a street in downtown Portland. A local business organization is calling for other business leaders to help address the systematic issue with long-term housing affordability and supportive services rather than putting more police on the street. As founding director of Portland's fastest growing business organization, Business for a Better Portland, I've had the opportunity to discuss our city's housing and homelessness crisis with many business leaders. Just last week, I met with one of our members who has hesitantly signed a new lease downtown for his growing company. Some of his employees have experienced intimidation and threats on the sidewalk around their office, and he recently encountered someone passed out in the downtown lobby. He, like most business leaders, expressed genuine concern for his employees' safety and direction that our city has taken in regard to the homelessness and addiction. While nearly every conversation I have had with business leaders in the last 18 months has touched on the plight of those experiencing homelessness, very few have called out greater police presence as the most urgent and effective solution. Business leaders I've spoken with, whose industries span from the fastest growing sectors of our economy, understand that solving a complex problem like homelessness requires a nuanced and broad-based solutions that bring elected official, government agencies, businesses, and advocates to the table. So it's becoming a problem. Where I used to live in Vancouver, I used to live by Tinseltown Mall when I first moved there, and I lived there for a while, just above my store from the mall. And my store was downstairs. And I had a really hard time walking out on the streets, getting harassed for money, getting asked for cigarettes, getting asked for a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? So this is a comment here by Harry, from Harry, and it's really important you guys listen to this. 50% of new participants in homeless shelters are now families with children. This problem is getting way out of control. No jobs, and they are inviting 1 million more immigrants to make things worse. So someone else commented saying, Portland, where did that go? Message retracted. Never mind. The problem is overpopulation. It could be, but I don't think so, because Overpopulation, I'll tell you why. If these people can afford to have kids, even the ones that are renting, there's no overpopulation. A lot of people are dying off and they're not laying their seeds or having their children. So, really good article. I want to thank Raymond for sending me that. So, this is a global research. It's a decent article here. And, hey landlord, take a hike. The housing crisis dreamland in America. In 2016, the last time accurate statistics were given, there were over 43 million housing units in America occupied by renters, up from 38 million in 2010. One would surmise that the great housing bubble burst of 2008-2009 pushed millions of Americans out of their own homes and into rental units. Obviously, when you have 38 or 43 million residential rental units, the absentee landlord owner must most of those units of housing. The old days, two-family home with the landlord living there and renting out the other unit to help with the mortgage, etc. And few are far between. Nowadays, most rental units are corporate owned and run, with smaller number and owned by individual so-called entrepreneurs, all looking to make a buck off the sweat of another. The sweat. God, I'm so out of it tonight. The sweat of another. No, the sweat of another. Sorry about that, guys. Having spent almost 2 of 3 of the baby boomers' life living under the auspices of landlords, whether corporate or individual owned, it sucks. Why? Well, first off, with no expectations, the landlord term taken right out of the feudalism always wishes to pay out as little money as they can to get away with the proper upkeep of the unit, period. So if you need something fixed and you call your landlord, basically what they're trying to say is, oh, my mirror's broken. I don't know what happened. It just cracked. Oh, so they'll just come in and put a piece of tin foil. Here's your mirror. It's a piece of tin foil. So it goes on to say here, always wishes to pay as little money as possible unit, period. I have lived in 9 different rental units spanning 45 years. In every instance, the landlord had to be coerced to do the right thing. In 1968, after our family lived in 3 different rental units owned by landlords, we finally moved into an apartment building owned by one of the largest corporate landlords in New York City. It was a horror show. The building was never maintained properly, with the building superintendents that came and went like the weather. So this is a very long article also, guys. It's more of a story, but I really want you guys to give this a glance because it's really good, and it goes into some of the old school tactics that we used to go to when I was a kid and what my parents had to go through. So the article is called, Hey Landlord, Take a Hike. Please read. Slog by The Stranger. So if you're ever down in the Seattle area, pick up a copy of The Stranger. And The Stranger is like their free magazine. It's free. It's on every second corner. I recommend people to pick it up when they're in town. It's a really good one. It gives you, The Stranger gives you upcoming events in Seattle, upcoming concerts, upcoming different activities and stuff to do for the kids. So if you're down there, pick up The Stranger. You can find some pretty good things going on in the city. Anyways, Canadians would have more babies if they made this game affordable. We don't need immigrants to fill the void. We have too many kids already, and some marry their cousins. Healthcare nightmare. So, and someone says, you can fit every single person on Earth in a state of Alaska and give them 2,000 square foot of land. That is very true. That is very true because it's not overpopulation. Can you guys do me a favor? When you're flying on an airplane, can you look out the window once in a while and see how much land you're passing without a single house or a city? Count how many minutes or if not hours you're going to be flying over, not ocean, doesn't count, over land. How many minutes you go from seeing one road going to a house, from an airplane, you see little roads, till you reach the next major road. See how much land you pass before you start to... It's not overpopulation, guys. Because Seattle is not going to solve its housing crisis anytime soon, we must focus on transportation. So that's what's happening in Seattle. They need to invest more in transportation, and Seattle now has come to grips and understanding that it's the transportation. They've come to grips to understand that they're not going to fix this housing crisis. Here's the bad news. There's currently nothing in Seattle's political system that has the power to realize affordable and public forms of housing in the near future. We can only expect the situation to get worse because the market has limited the solutions and discussion about housing to the limits of the market. Seattle is not only the city in this bad situation. This week, Vancouver, BC announced an ambitious housing strategy to make it sure it remains a place for all people of all incomes. I mean, I think that ship sailed a long time ago. A lot of us left Vancouver. I left Vancouver. My neighbor left Vancouver. The other neighbor left Vancouver. The guy across the street left Vancouver. And it's all pretty much born and raised Canadians. Most of them were born and raised Canadians and living the Canadian dream, if you like to say it that way. And someone just commented, says that boomers are dying in record numbers also. Very true. Net neutrality. I need to talk about this. What I'll do is we'll do a show. We'll do a call-in show on Monday, Brian. And you can call in. I'm going to get a new phone system set up to another computer system, guys. Everyone's asking about the phone number. And we could do this on a show where you guys call in and we just talk. I'll try and see if I could push for a Monday night show. You know, Monday night show, we could discuss what's happening. I know net neutrality is a huge problem because it's some sort of, I guess, algorithm that allows you to see what you should be seeing and not be seeing type of thing. So it is a bipartisan issue. So then Harry's commenting saying only 7% of Canada is area we can actually live on. That is the problem. It is overpopulation, and by default we let the overpopulated off the hook by letting them fill the space. So that's a problem. You guys aren't going to like this if you're London. If you guys are watching this in London, someone's commenting saying, office looking great, really enjoy the show, and don't not leave Merritt because of one douchebag. Yeah, I'm getting bullied. I'm getting bullied by somebody. It's just like when you have so much to lose in your life, you just don't want to succumb to things. You don't want to bring yourself down to someone else's level. You know what I'm saying? The reason why a lot of people don't do things in life is because they have a lot to lose, right? I mean, get stupid is what I want to say. People don't get stupid anymore because they have a lot to lose. Anyways, if you're watching this out of London, please let me know. Comment below. London Mayor launches garden grab to solve housing crisis. Yep. Awkward silence, because ready to take this in, guys, because I have a feeling other cities are going to see this and it's going to come to a city near you. London, November 29th. London's mayor said on Wednesday that he will tackle the chronic housing shortage by allowing denser construction and developing small sites like gardens and shops in more criticized by the opponent as a garden grab. So they're going to start building on green spaces. Ireland's been discussing this. Parts of Australia's been discussing this. Parts of Canada's been discussing this. That basically it's a garden grab. If they take our green space, I don't know how you guys feel about them taking up green space to build more homes that are going to remain empty because people can't afford to buy them. Could somebody explain this to me? Why are you going to take the very little to no existing green space, parks, recreational areas that people find peace of mind to get away from their homes and day to day, to build more condos and houses that people can't afford to buy anyways? I wish I was more educated, because maybe I'll know these answers, because I don't see this working. London Mayor Sadiq Khan setting new London-wide housing building target by 2029. 650,000 new homes, more than double the current rate, and removed rules that fixed minimum number of houses per development. With London's population expecting to increase by 70,000 from every year, it's vital we properly plan for growth with this new affordable homes in every area of the capital, he said in a statement. So guys, I need to know what you guys think about this, because there's so many empty units and boarded up units in London. I had someone send me an email 2 months ago telling me the exact same thing. It says, Mike, you're right. In the city of London, we have tens, if not hundreds of thousands of empty units all over the whole London region. Not just London, the whole region surrounding London. So people have to come in 1 to 2 hours a day to get to work. You know what I'm saying? And this is a big problem. So London's population expecting to increase by 70,000 every year. Okay. How can the London proper, from British, none of them are having kids? Apparently, from one of the articles I was reading, that the death rate for the London proper is higher than the birth rate for the London proper. How is the population going up 70,000 a year when no one's having kids? So I really need to educate myself to figure this out, because it's not working. This mathematical structure is not working. Anyways, so where are they going to have parades and parties? Where are they going to do that if they take all their green space away? This is already something that has been already addressed in Ireland and in Scotland and in Australia. Taking up green spaces to solve housing crisis. I want to know what you guys think. Leave in the comments below what you guys think on that one. This one's out of Scotland. Lord Mayor says, very real consequences of housing crisis shown in charity report. There it is right there. The Lord Mayor of Dublin has said that a report from housing charity Threshold brings a very real consequences of the housing crisis into sharp focus. He was speaking yesterday at a lunch of the charity's 2016 annual report, which showed they took sit back and listen to this. Turn up your volume. In 2016 annual report, which showed they took 71,319 calls in 2016 and helped 21,000 people. 30% of calls were from people who are at risk of losing their homes. There's a huge financial crisis in Dublin. Dublin Live. This is from Dublin Live. Sorry, I thought this was from Scotland. I'm sorry, guys. It's from Dublin Live. And this is a nice man here. And local mayor of London. He said that figures presented today by Threshold bring into sharp focus a very real consequences of our housing crisis. So they're starting to realize, this part right here is good. However, the charities committee to social justice knows no bounds. I would like to comment Threshold for its tireless efforts to help ensure that more families can access decent standard of accommodation, affordable rents, and security tenure with our city throughout the country. So, I mean, everyone means well, but how do you with this politically correct world we live in today, how do we address these problems and actually nip them in the bud and move on? You know what I'm saying? Number of empty houses hits 7-year high in Scotland. Yes. So this was sent to me from, God, what's his name? Connor. My friend here, Connor, from Scotland, sent me this. Number of empty houses hits 7-year high in Scotland. So, how do you fix this? Build more houses! Build more houses! Yeah, you know, if there's like so many empty homes, the key to do this is to build more houses and leave more empty homes. Take up the green space. Take up the green space. Build more homes. Leave them empty. So this is a really good report here. The number of empty homes north of the border has risen to 7-year high according to fresh figures. This is in Scotland, guys, okay? Almost 80,000 properties are lying unused at a time when charities say the country is facing a housing crisis with high numbers of people living homeless. The largest number of unoccupied houses were found in Glasgow and Edinburgh. Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland. But every council area has hundreds of empty properties within its boundaries. In Scotland, there were more than 34,000 applicants to local authorities from people looking for accommodation between 2016 and 2017, down 55,000 from 2010. Why is it down? Because a lot of people left these big cities and moved out to rural regions. The Scottish government said it did not recognize the figure on the number of empty homes, saying that the true level was less than half of that. I don't think so. But Helen Williams from the Empty Homes charity said the councils and the government must do more to ensure that homes were put to use when so many were sleeping on the streets. See, this is Edinburgh. So, like, what I'm trying to say is this is a problem, guys. So, in Scotland just started their housing crisis last year. Just started last year in Scotland. Just started taking off. And I've been following it since it took off. According to the study of BBC shared that data unit, there were 8,457 empty homes in Glasgow. That's just one city. Followed by 7,662 in Edinburgh and 5,448 in Fife. The biggest increase in unoccupied dwellings was Dumfries and Galloway, where the number of empty properties has risen a third since 2015 and stand at 3,011. In Scotland, the local authorities have the power to charge the full rate of council tax on an unused house, a measure taken up for the rest of the UK by Chancellor Philip Hammond in this week's budget. So another person sleeping rough out in the streets. So what did he do? What do you do to fix this problem? And this is coming from Glasgow, Scotland, Edinburgh. So somebody else would look at this article and say, oh, build more homes. Yeah, but we have so many empty homes. Build more homes. We'll solve the problem. Somebody's commenting here. There's an EU free no visa crosses the far right. Could tech flood into Germany from Poland for rallies to support German far right tech? So we'll discuss that on Monday, guys. I'll try and get my Monday show up and running. Rants and lifestyle. And then empty homes. Yep, speculators sitting on housing hoping to sell when the prices peak. Adding supply just means the landlords use their leverage to buy up more supply, control rents, and your future. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I think the only way for prices to drop is to make investment into real estate non-profitable, high property taxes, disallow short-term rent, tax 60% of rental income. Everybody hates rent controls. So let's move on. New Zealand has a worse housing crisis than the UK. So what's its new Labour government going to do about it? So I don't know if you guys know, New Zealand, the new president or the new government that's been elected in New Zealand, basically passed a new law starting January 1st. No more foreigners could buy in New Zealand, period. No exceptions. No loopholes. So continue following me on this show. I'll keep you up to date with that story there. New Zealand has the worst. So this is a problem. Auckland, all these big cities in New Zealand, people have no idea how bad things are in New Zealand. They got the meth houses. They got the meth test houses. You got, I don't know how many people living in hotels being put up by the government. Government paying hotels for people and families with kids not to live on the streets. Okay. What first strikes you about the advertisements seeking flatmates in Auckland is how old the pre-existing occupants are. Encouraged by speculator demand for housing in New Zealand's largest city, these mini gerontocrats' advanced years make them demanding cohabitees. Arriving in Auckland to make up a job with the opposition New Zealand Labour Party and beginning my search for a room. I encountered the quotation bans on loud music, but also more historic prolongations of acceptable times to fry an egg. So basically, there's so much rules when you're living, with roommates. In Auckland, where a third of New Zealanders live, the housing crisis is even more acute than in London. The median house prices to median income ratio is amazingly higher. Nationally, the picture is likely to be worse in Auckland. 75% under 40s rent. In London, it's about 45%. Private sector rents in the down and heel south of the city are comparable to cheaper parts of London. But here, housing stock is especially poor quality and basic amenities are often lacking or prohibitively expensive. Prohibitively expensive. Sorry guys, I can't read. So someone's commenting here. 85 homeless people in Canada have died already here in 2017. And we are the first world country. So let's keep going. So this is a big article here. I invite you all to read it. So building upwards, not outwards, is what is a reasonable, sparsely populated city is the better option. Labour ducked this fight at the election, but soon it must be had. The evidence is that densification to a point improves cities. It makes public transport investment more effective. It encourages cycling, walking, and leaves high streets. Urban sprawl achieves the opposite. So I believe in urban sprawl, a couple of high rises, but none of this, nightmare that people are living in right now. So I like this article. Flat house prices prove there's no crisis. So there's no housing crisis because housing prices have been flat. National Housing spokesperson. National Housing spokesperson says flatlining properties in Auckland prove there is no housing crisis. Sale prices in Auckland have stagnated in the last few months. After years of double-digit growth, the previous national-led government called the housing affordability a challenge, refusing to call it a crisis. Asked the AM show on Monday morning what it would take for a national to admit there was a crisis. Well, I think what you would see is a runaway house price inflation. So what they're saying here, the Prime Minister told her AM show on Monday, the goal is to get a Quinn's summary to help the new government decide where to focus its efforts. One of the things that have really pushed hard for when we were in opposition was a sense of the scale of what we were facing in the housing crisis. So anyone getting into government now need to study and understand what's happening in the housing crisis in your local city near you. It's every English-speaking country is dealing with this problem. And if you want to get into politics or you want to have a voice in politics and talk and be part of a higher level of government, you must study the housing crisis. And you won't learn about the housing crisis in any school, university, or you have to kind of open your mind and see what's happening everywhere else. Since we've come to there's been some revelations of the shortfall of housing stock across the country being closer to 70,000. So the largest figure from Auckland Council shows the increase from around 45% in property values increase in 2014. Prices in many parts of the city have doubled since the global financial crisis 9 years ago. What we want to do is give those experts who have struggled themselves to get access to that data to do this analysis, access so they can produce for us a Quinn's report that talks about all the areas the evidence says we need to be targeting. This is Miss Ardan, Miss Adrian. So New Zealand's in a lot of trouble right now, people. They're now passing a law that kicks off in January that no more foreign ownership allowed. Let's move on. Rental market failing. Many Australians, especially pensioners and students. Australia is in a grip of a housing crisis and a rental market is failing too many people, especially older women, according to the latest rental affordability. The report released today by the National Shelter Community Sector Banking SGS found the low-income households could no longer afford to live in metropolitan areas. Not good, people. Pensioners and students were the most vulnerable, with some of them winding up homeless. Imagine. You go out, you fight a couple of wars for your country, you preserve your freedom, you go out there on limb to make your country a better place. You come back from the war, you work construction and build some infrastructure for the next future or the next generation to have something they could use, and then you end up homeless. That's the most disrespectful thing anyone could do to a senior. You know? Someone's commenting saying, we can't buy in China and Mexico. Why do we let them buy here? Well, it's a free market. Free market society. You know, and free market society is why, you know, I don't mind people like buying, but I'm talking about people coming to lay roots, pay taxes, send their kids through school, make Canada their place, their home, their place for life. You know what I'm saying? And it's not good. It's not good what's happening right now. So this is what's happening with the rents here. Acceptable rents, moderately affordable. Greater Brisbane, moderately unaffordable rents. And you could go here in this graph here, how much is being spent on rent, how unaffordable it is, and that's the region area. We need to have the right incentives in a place to encourage build rent sector in Australia. So they're going to do that. Like I said, Australia is passing laws to allow. So people are commenting here, watch this. How could this happen to people like me? Plunging into homelessness can happen in a blink of an eye. Julie, 61, experienced it firsthand after having to leave her well-paid job. I could not deal with the day-to-day things like paying my rent, just paying bills basically, she said. This led me losing everything, house, car, you name it. At the time, I thought I was my own personal phenomena. How could this happen to people like me? But I don't think this is unusual. From what I understand these days, her situation was exacerbated by struggles with anxiety and depression. So, let's move on. Australia in midst of rental affordability. Again, same article, different syndicate picking it up, because this is becoming a problem. So you can't buy, you're bought out. Now you can't rent. What's the next option? Homeless? Like, I mean, that's the next option. You're homeless. I mean, someone's going to have to educate me here, because I don't understand. A lot of these people work their entire lives. Why is this happening? Yeah, so why is this happening, people? Okay, you can't afford to buy. Fine, all right. I bite the bullet. I can't buy. Oh, well, I'll move on. I'll rent. Hey, I can't rent. I can't afford to rent either. Anyways, guys, so that's it for today, guys. I really wanted to put this show together for you guys. Here's another article. Would the Australian housing market bubble burst soon? Anytime soon, from today. Depending on who you talk to, the Australian housing market is a massive bubble that is about to pop, which will eventually drag banks and the economy down as house prices crash. In a piece written by the liberal mass AMP capitalist head off in the investment strategy and chief economist Shane said the bubble has been inflated by tax breaks, low interest rates, and liar loans that are causing major mortgage stress. Notably, however, he believes that the conditions indicating a housing price crash are not in place. What? A threat of the housing price crash has been going on for years. Oliver mentioned, noting that in 2004, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development estimated that the Australian housing was 51.8% overvalued. That year, The Economist tagged Australians as America's ugly sister due to borrowing binge and skyrocketing property prices. Property crash calls were wheeled out repeatedly after global financial crisis, with the commentator losing a high-profile bet and prices could fall up to 40% and having to walk to the summit of Mount Kuziko as a result, Oliver said. Since then, many have predicted the fall in the housing prices. In fact, a major news publication in the United States said Australia might experience what is happening in Los Angeles, where home prices slumped 40%. So this is another long article. I invite you guys to read it. It's called Will the Australian Housing Market Bubble Burst Anytime Soon? Anyways, guys, you know what? Next week, I'm going to see if I could do a rants and lifestyle show so we could talk about Bitcoin and what's happening with all this internet stuff that's being changed around, and we could talk about the stock market. We could talk about whatever you guys want on Monday nights. Wednesday nights, guys, every Wednesday nights, don't forget to tune into my show here, Trends in the Housing Market, and talking about the housing tragedy that every single English-speaking country is facing right now. Big hug to everyone. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think in your comments below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Have yourself a great night, and don't forget to share this and get this out there. Good night, people.